Good day, and a warm welcome to you to today's webinar brought to you from Reuters Events and Healthcare Consultancy Group. My name is Jan-Willem van Doorn. As Chief Transformation Officer for the Healthcare Consultancy Group, I'm delighted to moderate today's exciting topic discussion on artificial intelligence in practice, how medical affairs can leverage AI today. What an excellent time to discuss this topic as we live through the historic moment in time of seeing artificial intelligence shift quickly from the theoretical to reality and now enter the realms of practical implementation for pharma and specifically medical affairs. To bring this exciting topic alive, I'm delighted to be joined by esteemed experts from pharma, medical communications, and the fields of technology. Introducing my esteemed panel today, Yusuf Idolkate, Head of Data Science, Commercial, Medical and Government Affairs at Genentech. Jennifer Villagarcia, Global Medical Engagement Strategy and Content Lead at Sanofi. Pascal van der Gucht, Medical Affairs Transformation Lead, Digital Technology at UCB. And Raymond Veet, VP, Senior Director, Digital Technology at Healthcare Consultancy Group. During a webinar, we warmly welcome your questions via the questions function, and we will endeavor to answer them where time allows. Before we launch into our discussion, let's start with a presentation by Akash Sakalaspur and Nicole Parker to set the scene in the developing landscape of AI and medical affairs.
Thank you, Jan-Willem. Before we dive into today's panel discussion, as Jan-Willem mentioned, Nicole and I would like to take a few minutes to talk about the challenges we face in our landscape as medical affairs professionals. We'll talk a little about where AI fits in there as a solution for some of those challenges. We'll highlight some current use cases of AI within our function, and Nicole specifically will focus on one such use for evidence generation and management. And finally, we'll stress on why we as medical affairs professionals need to stay involved in this process of digital transformation through AI. And hopefully all of that will serve as a good setup for the discussion that follows with our panel. So with that, let's take a look at the changing landscape for our audience in the next slide, please. So when you glance at what's on the slide, it may look like we've been seeing these trends for a long time, that is being inundated with volume of data and information, not having enough time to educate themselves through literature or interactions with their professionals, and that they're adopting or constantly adopting alternate ways and channels to stay informed and connected with their peers. But there is one key difference on this slide, and that is how rapidly there is an increase in the volume of data being produced. And that first slide on that's first stat on the slide is about medical knowledge doubling every 2 to 3 months, and it's quite an outstanding stat in itself. And all of this is putting in increased demand on us to manage a growing volume of scientific data. On the next slide, if you want, the next slide, please. Keeping them updated frequently and sometimes in real time, so that we're communicating the correct and relevant information to both HCPs and patients, and specifically for payers to be able to consider expanded RWE data sets to demonstrate impact. Relevancy is a key need here. We constantly hear that from our HCP audience, that they're asking for more personalized content and communications in their preferred formats. Specifically, this last bit is about our audience craving for a personalized educational experience. We've heard about this is where that promise about good omni-channel strategy comes in, but it's been a challenge. I think everyone here on this call will agree that it's been a challenge to deliver on that without the right technology infrastructure or ecosystem in place, and it's actually quite complex with the implementation strategy for that. And this is exactly where AI tools are playing an increasingly important role, specifically for more complex challenges, whether it's analyzing audience data and behaviors to help with that segmentation, journey mapping, Also helping with dynamic content creation based on any specific set attributes and approved data to deliver those personalized messages that our audience is asking for, and even aiding with fact checking and approvals. So more complex the challenge, chances are AI is being applied more and more in this case. Now, it is natural that for the initial applications that we see, the focus will be on automating processes for tasks that's required by humans, specifically to improve productivity, drive efficiency. Even you will hear about saving cost. But for us in medical affairs, there's a potential to drive synergy between human effort and technology and improve communication and education, which is our core focus here. So, and we'll see this grow, utilization of AI as we develop and deploy new cases successfully and validate them. So I know a couple of slides ago, I touched upon briefly, about content development and communication, but that was in the context of omnichannel. Right now, though, if you're seeing where AI is being utilized, there are AI tools right now being used in standard creative production, both for enhancing quality and driving efficiency for image and video creation. Our creative teams are super excited about this ability, and that may be a fairly recent thing. Use of digital avatars is another area that's finding traction, including avatars for HCPs, patients, and even MSLs. You'll see them as a front for whether it's something as simple as a front for a chatbot, for serving info content in your SRLs on MedInfo sites, or in other communication areas. And also beyond summarizing structured or unstructured data from clinical research and publications, AI models are now being used to mine insights from large volumes of social media data. And we are already using AI solutions to identify and map digital opinion leaders on our end. I mentioned like some of these seems rather relatively recent, specifically with all the attention that we have gotten from ChatGPT and generative AI, but AI has been around for a long time for some of us. We in our industry specifically have been exploring its use in various areas. And one such area is evidence generation, which I will hand it off now to Nicole to talk about.
Thank you, Akarsh. Exactly. Beyond content generation, we're already leveraging AI in evidence and data collection. So on the next slide, you'll see a few examples, which include gathering and synthesizing information and identifying patterns within data that may not be apparent using manual analysis. And in addition, we're using AI to create evidence repositories that are maintained in near real time. And I'll walk through an example of this on the next slide. So in this situation, we had three challenges in managing evidence and data. There was redundancy, different functions were working in silos, asking the same kinds of questions based on the same evidence that they each gathered separately. Number two, there was inefficiency. Manual analyses were time consuming and results were quickly rendered out of date. And relatedly, number three, our third challenge here was a lag. As new evidence is reported all the time, it was challenging to keep up with new gaps and identify opportunities in a meaningful way. So to better manage this process, we implemented an AI-driven evidence repository, maintaining a near real-time library of data that was available to each of these teams. And ultimately, this approach created new value for how we could work. It streamlined the process, making it more efficient, of course. Love that. It provided deeper insights, enabled us to align and have consistency across the functions, and allowed each of these teams to go in and query that evidence in basically real time. So these teams were no longer working in data silos. So with the promise and optimism of AI also comes a need for responsible use. We know AI is a tool, it's very exciting, very new, and it does not and should not replace humans' ability to exercise judgment and reason. So in addition to using an AI technology for its own sake, we should also be educated in understanding of its abilities, potential limitations, and really understand how accurate, reliable, and relevant its outputs are. Some major considerations when looking at an AI technology as well are data quality, data privacy, data collection, and potential for bias, among many others. So it's still early days, but being educated about what an AI technology can offer And having transparency will definitely establish trust and credibility in the medical and pharma communities about AI technology and its use. So altogether, AI holds promise in medical affairs, and AI transformation won't happen overnight, even though it's moving at such a pace. Taking a growth mindset towards AI will benefit organizations in steadily integrating this technology. And with that, I'll pass it over to Jan Willem and our expert panelists for discussion.
Thank you, Karis and Nicole. And let's move to the panel. Maybe you kick this off and telling us about your current experience with AI in medical affairs. Jennifer, you want to kick this off?
Yeah, I'll go first. So I would say that AI is quite present in many of our discussions in medical affairs, but even across the company. We're looking at how we can leverage this power of AI all the way from R&D to supply to manufacturing, and then bringing it down to medical affairs inclusive. We see that there's a lot of opportunities for AI in medical affairs in terms of what was mentioned earlier, content development, maybe even up until clinical trial optimization. And there's some things that we're investigating already and implementing already, and other things where we're in exploratory mode to see what kind of tools are available could be available to us, and then which ones are the most appropriate, all while maintaining the guidelines and the guardrails in terms of what is compliant for this industry. So a lot of excitement, a lot of exploration at the same time.
And Yusuf, what are your thoughts, your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, JW, and thank you for having us today. Yeah, I would say in the same vein as Jennifer, I would say we started embedding AI in our business plans and strategy, and that's inclusive of medical affairs. Of course, we do that compliantly because as far as my organization is concerned, we doubled down on the commercial side and also on R&D. But I think the last 3 years or 2 years have been very interesting as we started also transforming. So AI definitely plays a role. And our experience today can be summarized in a couple of areas. I think one of the most appealing ones for our people is definitely evidence generation. And also clinical trial matching in order to make sure we have like a much more inclusive clinical trials and having some sort of equity or has equity in the way we operate. And AI can definitely help there, and we see a lot of opportunities. And last is for our MSLs, I think the automation piece is crucial. And we kind of developed a muscle around search or semantic search to navigate a huge amount of documents, which can be very cumbersome actually for the MSLs in order to engage in a better way with physicians, for instance. Yeah, a lot to unpack. I'm sure the conversation will lead us to a much more detailed outlook, and I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome, thank you. And Pascal, what is your experience?
Thank you, Jan, and good morning, good afternoon all. Thanks for having me and sharing the perspective of UCB. What we are doing at UCB, certainly in medical affairs, is mainly the experience with AI has been stimulated by our data analytics, artificial intelligence team at UCB, so mainly the technical teams, but also by our vendors. So a couple of examples where we are using AI is in expert identification, like you mentioned earlier. So what are the medical experts in certain disease areas? What are the rising stars? What are community leaders? So also based on claims data to understand really what are people that are shaping locally the clinical practice, because it's nice to advance and communicate science, but also the change of behavior needs to happen in the clinical practice. what are the DOLs? So where we have those intelligence data points at the fingertip of our hands. Couple of other initiatives where we are using artificial intelligence is NLP, so natural language process models, to facilitate our insights capabilities. So how can we analyze and cluster better unstructured data? Of course, also based on the experience of our commercial teams, next best action. So based on segmentation, content and interest of customers, what is the recommendation for a next engagement with the customer? And then finally, where we also conducted some initiatives is to understand better the patient journey of specific patient populations. So looking to specific patient profiles and how does that patient pathway looks like, all based on analyzing data. So that's a little bit our experience at the moment.
Thank you. It seems that all three of you looking at it in a pretty broad way, applying AI to activities within medical affairs. If you think about AI at the moment, there's a lot of association between AI and efficiency. What is your perspective on the value creation by AI? Is this efficiency, or do you see other ways of value creation?
I can take the first stab at it. And in terms of, I think from an efficiency perspective, I think actually, there's a lot of value kind of created, like, from an AI perspective, it's kind of very multifaceted in terms of, it's from an efficiency play, it's from effectiveness, there's an opportunity from an innovation side of things. So, it provides a real platform for just general kind of value creation. And I think, Pascal, one of the things that you spoke about just there, like the ability for kind of insight generation, that's how I really see where the value can really be created. Because, we talk a lot internally about how kind of AI is almost like your caddy, and sorry for the golf analogy for anybody that isn't a golfer, but that person or that tool that's there to not necessarily take the shot, but actually be there to kind of set you up to take the right type of shot. And I think that's where, when we're thinking about the efficiency play, when it comes to AI, it is really about allowing our teams to drive to better insights, because maybe they have been given more time, because actually some of the tasks have been able to be automated. And it allows, for teams to really focus in on the things that are going to generate better value for clients. Some of the examples are ones that we're working on quite a lot, whether that's within the social media space or in the DOL identification space. There are some tools that allow us to really get better insights than maybe we would have got maybe 18 months ago. So I think that for me, that's probably where you'd start to see more opportunities for kind of value creation, for sure.
And maybe I can build on that, because I'm focusing on content, and I see huge efficiencies for developing medical content with AI, in terms of time efficiencies, for sure, in terms of being able to have an AI tool search the literature to really understand what is the evidence out there, using natural language processing to analyze insights, to bring that into the mix too, in terms of, what do we want to talk about, then using AI to summarize that data into content, and then even put it in a nice looking format so that we can get it out the door faster. So I think the value is in the efficiency and the time that we can gain by helping to summarize this content, knowing that, of course, we're going to have to validate it in the second step, like your caddy. The caddy prepares it for you, but you still need to validate it. But it's going to be much faster than what we've done in the past. And the real value is that those clinicians or those HCPs who need that data out there, they can get that as soon as that information becomes available. We can get it out in, in 20% of the time that it took in the past. So I think that's where the real value is going to come, is going to be able to create efficiencies internally so that we can create more value externally to those clinicians and HCPs.
Thank you, Jennifer. Use of any perspective here?
Yeah, absolutely. And I liked how Ray and Jennifer basically prepared the floor on this question. So I would just add something around patients' outcome. I see a huge opportunity for AI to create value around personalization, right? So we tend to think that engagement is a pure commercial kind of activity, but there are roles, field roles that are, patient facing and medical basically facing. So I believe AI can help with pulling actionable insights in order for the MSLs to engage better. Being in a proactive mode versus being in a reactive mode, because engagement is still a little bit more dusty, I would say, in overall in the industry. So for the commercial functions that are more in a push, they take their phone, they call the physicians to engage, and for the MSLs, they may receive call, and that's the pull in order to answer questions on the science around the product when it comes to what their companies is engaged on. So I think AI can definitely help in creating this proactivity by implementing much more personalized engagement mechanisms through recommender systems. And medical affairs or medical overall is a good application space for that.
Thank you. AI, data, big data are seen as really the fuel to AI. What is your experience so far in AI use and data in medical affairs? Pascal, you already alluded a little bit to that. Maybe you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, so I mentioned indeed we progressed quite well this year to upskill our insights capability due to an NLP platform. So based on the efficiency in what already was mentioned, we see certainly also a more purposeful way and a motivated way by the teams in bringing insights, because it remains a clear value proposition for medical affairs in bringing back, I would say, insights based on those peer-to-peer discussions and scientific exchange that they are having with external customers. So we see, due to the, I would say, short cycle times of bringing back signals to the teams, that there is a huge motivation to bring in additional pre-insights. So the volume of insights is increasing. Also, the speed of how those are analyzed, and we can already bring some signals to more the in-office medical teams, so meaning the medical strategy leads. You see that, I would say, the governance and the discussions around insights, is it an insight? Can we act on it? Will it shape or change our medical strategy? That is becoming more powerful. So that's a start. We do it. We start with MSL notes coming from our CRM, and then we will most likely in the second phase transition to our MedInfo data points to see also, do we see there confirmation or complement of signals. Another element on big data and AI is the use of claims data, certainly in the areas where there is sufficient data quality and granularity around patient data. So the use of anonymized patient data. As we are entering in rare disease, we also want to detect a bit what are the trends to predict upcoming patients. So what we call patient findings. So based on longitudinal data, do we see some trends? And if we are confirming those trends, can it be a prediction of the next patient that we can serve in the most best way? So that are two main examples of big data and AI.
Yeah, thank you. Great examples I feel given by you so far. What are your thoughts around how actually these examples are changing the medical affairs landscape right now?
Yeah, I can start. Can open the floor. I think definitely the speed. So I think the way this landscape is changing is tremendously fast. That's the first aspect of how AI is impacting. And I spoke earlier about the proactivity or proactiveness versus reactiveness. This is definitely one of the first changes or effects of having AI entering the arena of medical affairs. The other one is the type of how we design clinical trials, how we include patients in the clinical trials is also tremendously changing because of AI ability and capability to analyze and process a huge amount of data, and because of the availability of a much bigger horsepower to do that, it becomes very easy to match the right patients with the right sites and the right clinical trials. So there is that level of making medical affairs a conduit to impact how inclusive a clinical trial could be. In the United States, unfortunately, clinical trials are still very white dominant, while missing opportunities for Black and Hispanics, African Americans and Hispanics. So I think the way AI can change this landscape, for me, I really see it from inclusiveness and inclusive research for sure. So that's my 2 cents on this question.
Jennifer, anything to add to this?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to go back to the content side about the changing landscape, because it's not just artificial intelligence that's changing the landscape, but just the landscape in general. There's so much information out there. I think there's almost like 1 million new scientific publications a year. So even if clinicians focus on their therapeutic area, it's almost impossible to really understand all this new data that's coming out. So clinicians are turning to pharma to say, help me understand this. Help me in my practice. I don't have time to be sifting through it on my own. And that's where AI can come in, where we can help those doctors summarize the content, explain it in a way that's easy to understand, easy to grasp, easy for them to understand how they can implement that into their clinical practice. And this is where pharma companies are going to be being seen as a real partner to those HCPs. So we can leverage AI to really partner and help our external stakeholders. And this is going to be a very powerful tool for us.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, the audience asked as well, could you share some more details about how AI can support content development? You alluded already to that a few times. Any more details?
So yeah, so definitely it can help in summarizing literature, searching for evidence, summarizing it, putting it into a format that's easy for HCPs to understand. Because even that is quite time consuming to make the graphs look nice in the colors. So this is something that we can do right now, very easily, to use those tools to summarize data and get content out there. But I see, in a very futuristic way of looking, how AI is really going to be able to help us get the right message at the right time to the right clinician. And I was even giving an analogy in my personal life that last week I was in the office, and I was in the office much too late, around the time of dinner time. And just by coincidence, I received an SMS from Domino's Pizza reminding me about their Tuesday night specials. And then I started thinking, I wonder if there's some AI mechanisms going in there, that AI or some tools knew that I wasn't at home where I should be, and this is the right message for me to have at that right time. And think about how we could leverage that for clinicians, that if there was an AI tool that could analyze the clinician's diary to say that they have these characteristics of patients coming in next week, and then content would be delivered to that clinician that was relevant to those patients, so they have the right content, the right information at the right time. So I think maybe this is the first time in my life I will say that we can really learn some things from Domino's and apply that to pharmaceutical industry.
Absolutely. Another question that comes in, does the speed and efficiency require a new way of thinking? That's if you put a lot of content quickly, how do you ensure that you're not overwhelming recipients and really providing high value content that is on target for their needs? Pascal, any thoughts?
Specifically on the content, I believe certainly going towards, and I'm taking already the approach toward modular content. So business rules will become more important. Business rules, metadata, tagging, all those elements that are, I would say, at the moment, if people are doing it right, already consuming a lot of manual effort. I think at a certain short time of period, those interventions can be taken over by AI and take the modules already better, and then also make, like Jennifer mentioned, a recommendation on how an assembly should look like, and then I would say the final content creator or responsible within a pharma company just needs to confirm or adjust it, and it can go out. So that's a little bit an example on how I would say AI can be used in the content journey.
Wonderful, thank you. Yusuf, there were some questions specific for you, but what mechanism can AI help evidence generation and clinical trials be more inclusive?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the use of classification models and the use of natural language processing, or language models overall today can help basically analyze and extract information from clinical trials, trial protocols, from inclusion criteria to match the patients with the right site. So basically, we have done a use case like that at Genentech, where basically we leverage natural language processing to do some name entity extraction in order to label who is who, and suggest to the physicians or the sites what is the part of the population basically to include and accelerate that. So I think using these mechanisms can help. Using the recommender systems is also an opportunity because giving that information to MSLs can definitely be a way to inform the physicians. And there is another aspect of patients' self-service, where you can suggest things directly through your patient portals to the patients, so they can know their options. If they are on treatment already, it's perfect, so you can help them maybe in cost effectiveness. If they are not, if they're just exploring because they have been just diagnosed, so basically you can help them also maybe join a clinical trial or study. So there is a mix of techniques and mechanisms, but a lot of it is basically very heavy on data labeling. And that was one of the challenges, by the way, we faced, is how can you label the clinical trials once you extract the things, so you can make sure that the population you're matching is the right one. So so that's my 2 cents. I hope this answers the question from the person in the audience.
Yeah. Another interesting question is thinking about building AI. Is this something to build internally, or is this something to build together with vendors, or a combination of the two? What are your thoughts?
I can take a little bit of that question. I think that the key thing is to try and find partners. I think that one of the things that we're all probably now accustomed to is the fact that there's so much, that the rate of explosion in terms of just general what's happening within the AI space means that it's difficult, I think, for most companies to try and keep abreast of everything. I think if you're working with a a good partner that has got things in place that can kind of work on your actual kind of business needs and requirements, I think that that's going to probably get you in a faster, or you know, get you at the endpoint a lot faster than if you're trying to basically build things out yourself. And you know, it's probably sensible to try and find AI vendors and partners to kind of work with, for sure.
Yeah, and if I can add on that, I think we're seeing it inside Sanofi that it kind of depends on what is the application. If there's applications where it's very specific to our business or very specific to our data and we want to keep our data in-house, then that's an opportunity to develop those competencies in-house. If it's some just very generic applications for speeding up different processes and there's tools that are off the shelf available, then the cost efficiencies are much more in the favor of going with that off-the-shelf solution and external vendors. So it depends on the balance of how much money you want to invest to get a certain outcome and if it's worth it or not.
Yeah, and I can maybe also comment on this. It's really, I would say, different criteria that will influence that decision. So based on use case already mentioned, is it based on in-house data, yes or no? So I think there then it's more collaboration between a vendor and in-house expertise. If I would say the AI is really focused on efficiency gains based on, I would say, your operations, and you're already using a technology, a digital tool for that, then it's potential to ask better to an integration of AI into that vendor solution. So that are a bit the different criteria that you can take. So really, is it using your data, yes or no? Is it part of an already used digital tool that you can seamlessly integrate, and then also reflect a little bit on scalability and evolution with the technology, because it goes quite fast.
Yeah. Another interesting question is, how are you preparing your teams for the change, how to change their work as AI is becoming more used?
I can start because it's easy for me to answer this question, because I have AI engineers in the team and I don't have to convince them too much. But let me you know, transpose or project the question on the organization overall. So I think definitely education is key, and I think we have you know, we heard that in the presentation. For data scientists, it is easy to talk about, you know, regressions and classifications and you know, natural language processing and recommender systems. We understand each other, right? But it doesn't mean anything to people outside that realm of technology and data science. So I think if you are developing, let's say, a next best action program that is based on recommender systems to field people, whether it be commercial or medical, explain to them how the suggestions are being made in a really human, you know, plain English, you know, language, and also explain what is in it for them, what is at stake. So that basically changes the way we perceive technology and helps make the shift. And I think we have seen this every time there is like a new technology or new step or phase in doing things differently, technology or not, actually. So we are the enemies of what we ignore, and education is definitely the way to change you know, the way people work or perceive things. So that's my 2 cents. And actually I have to educate also myself and my team sometimes. So I'm still like work in progress, I would say.
Could I tack on something to that? I think that Yusuf is a great point. Like, just actually the education piece around getting comfortable with whatever technology it is. And I think that is the biggest thing with AI. You know, we can say that actually, you know, ChatGPT was the accelerant for most people to understand what AI is about, or what is the potential for AI. So it feels like it's a really tangible thing. And, you know, I think for most teams or for most individuals, that might have been their first exposure to it. So the key thing is there to, as you said, Yusuf, just actually enable your teams to understand what they can do with this type of technology and what the benefits are, and then also start to work out how that can impact the work that they do. the chances are is that some great ideas will probably permeate from them playing around with it and exploring what are the opportunities in using it. And you know, it's really kind of brought AI to the masses, and that's one of the real kind of positive things I think that you probably see with things like ChatGPT for sure.
Yeah. Another question came in, and that's more around compliance. So what compliance issues need to be considered related to the use of AI, and how have you dealt with that?
Maybe I can start because the content is a big one. So many guardrails and MLR reviews and whatnot. So AI today and probably into the near future is not anywhere in a state where we can let it roam free and summarize content and then send it out to directly to our HCPs or our clinicians. Where I see it is going back to the idea of a tool, being able to help with generating content, being able to generate a really good first draft, even being able to see some of the content from different angles, being able to take, let's say, very long, heavy content and breaking it down into different kinds of contents, videos, infographics. It has that capacity, but it's a tool that then in the second step needs to be validated as we do for all of our content. So that's,
yeah, I can.
Compliance things are still there for now.
I love your example, Jennifer. I might connect with you offline on the content piece because I've just started as well. And I think if I complement Jennifer's thoughts from what I said as head of data science, so I always joke and tell people, hey, I have hearings or Congress hearings every week with privacy and compliance, and it's true. So basically, what probably not every week, but every time we have a new use case or data product that we are developing. So for us in the medical affairs, so I think one of the really biggest questions we've been trying to answer, and we did, is how can I create programs like next best action, segmentation of patients and HCPs and whatnot, and how can I do a search using NLP without mixing insights from the commercial side, because as you know, you're all experts in the field, so there are like the promotional and non-promotional. So in medical affairs, we compliantly we don't have, and we are not allowed to speak to the dollars. We speak to the science. So the compliance is really on top of these questions. And every time we are trying to train a new model or create a new initiative, their main question is who's going to be using it, how. And how are you guys coming up with the insights? Show me the input data or training data sets. And the list, definitely we go through the details, although, compliance is not necessarily AI, people, but they really go through the details of what's coming in and what's going out. So that's one of the compliance examples, commercial versus medical, this dichotomy in order to achieve compliantly and omni-channel or end-to-end for patients and HCPs.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Compliance may be a concern. Can you think about other concerns or barriers for AI adoption and implementation?
I can give also perspective a little bit in line of the compliance answer. So AI is in majority based on data. So compliant use of data is one where we have all the data privacy aspects that needs to be addressed. Certainly because you will integrate and profile persona based on different data that is integrated. That's one. In most of the cases, we are also using a lot of external vendor data. Most of the time also data from different vendors. So also there, compliant use of data sharing, data integration, data transfer between regions, and using or compiling data from different vendors need to be done in a compliant way. So also the third-party access is increasing. So we also put a huge effort and burden on our legal and data privacy people within UCB. And then finally, also potentially a good attention point for everybody here on the call is also when you're creating your own in-company an algorithm, it can be an asset. Certainly if you do it in combination with a vendor and also protect your intellectual property. So see that you also stay ahead of that, and that's certainly with your intellectual property people and certainly your legal department, you are protecting your asset.
Of course, there are some MSLs on the line, and one of them asked, I understand the value of AI for an organization. What do I, as an MSL, get out of this? What is the value for me for AI?
I can start. As we are going live in my company very soon this summer with some sort of AI-driven next best engagement or recommender system for MSL. So again, it comes down to what is the work you do today that requires proactivity, and you are doing it in a reactive mode. And what is the impact on you? For example, I'm sure there are a lot of tasks that the MSLs are doing that are cumbersome, repetitive, time-consuming, versus using AI, for example, to help them navigate very, very quickly and search. For me, we have run, I can give you some information here. If you ask any MSL, what is the functionality they dream of in doing their work day to day, it's search. And you create a strong semantic search and medical search, you save them a lot of time. So the time saved, it's time basically added for them to strategize, to kind of pull through, come up with new ideas, help design better clinical trials, and also de-pressure, this reactiveness, and have time to anticipate things and plan their next engagement better. I think that's what is at stake, right? So I don't want to go the route of talking about the incentive for field, workers or employees, because this is different from a company to another. But whatever that incentive is, whether you're incentivized on science or dollar amounts or on changing behaviors, of your physicians, AI definitely helps you in all sorts of ways, and we touch on a lot of those ways, like the content, the personalization, the segmentation. So that's what is in AI for the MSLs. For instance, more efficacy, I would say. We are not really talking about effectiveness in medical, like I mentioned, but a little bit more time to strategize, to be a little bit more proactive, focus on the science instead of focusing on the tactics and manual, tasks. So that's my, in a nutshell, my 2 cents.
Thank you. And the other question is, how do we build trust in content created by AI? I assume that continues. That is a hot topic. If a lot of data is summarized, how do we know the key elements are brought out? Jennifer, you've been talking a lot about content creation, but what is your perspective here around trust?
Yeah, because I think the risk of using something like AI is that you just develop more stuff and then it becomes a bit spam for the HCPs or the clinicians. So and also the risk is that AI is almost like when you have an intern or something, it needs to be trained as well. So there's a risk that what it's outputting is not correct. So there's also a lot of work in, let's say, training the tool at the beginning stages, so that what you're feeding into it, you're validating it. And like a lot of AI tools, the more you use it, the more reliable it becomes. But then that end phase of managing the MLR review is still a mandatory phase, and that's where we're going to be able to weed out any falsifications or errors in the interpretation. And it's that stage that we still need to be very vigilant on, so that we maintain that trust externally.
Just to kind of add, I think, you know, when you're thinking about the kind of content creation piece, you know, and I think they were kind of talked about in the slides, which is around that human element, you know, like there is this human oversight bit, which I think until that's kind of almost demonstrated to audiences, that's when you're going to start to really build the trust in whatever's being produced, because you then it's almost the rubber stamp, I think, in terms of anything that's kind of being generatively output, that at least you go, it's gone through a human set of eyes. And in particular in the field that we're in, you know, that's, I think, the thing that is actually going to be, you know, the thing that's going to drive trust in any type of kind of content that might be generated through AI, for sure.
And Jan, I would say for every AI solution, the accuracy of it's crucial. And how can you, I would say, increase the probability of high accuracy? It's high internal data quality. So that's key. And then secondly, like Ray also mentioned, certainly also internal controls, verification steps, and certainly at the final step, a human intervention to confirm and validate the output before it goes out.
Thank you.
Yeah, one thought is about giving control, I think, to humans. I have this example in mind where I might give you a draft, right? Like if I summarize, you know, a bunch of documents or medical, you know, content for you, you might override it. I can give you the power to override that draft and accept it or dismiss it. And this is exactly what we do in next best action engines, for example. You have the ability as a rep or as an MSL, for instance, to accept or dismiss. The only thing we ask for as you know, technology people or AI people is to provide your feedback of why you dismiss. So that feedback loop, I think, creates the trust through that relationship. And I liked what Pascal said around confidence and accuracy. So make the machine learn. And I think Jennifer mentioned the intern example, and I also you know, basically think about the kids, you know, they're work in progress. You teach them things and you keep teaching them. There is like some sort of reinforcement learning there, like through reward and penalization. So make that relationship strong or stronger between MSLs or reps and the AI through a good user experience, for example. And this is how people really, you know, build that trust and give them control. If I know that I have the ability to override what the machine is outputting for me, I feel less pressured, less stressed, and less threatened. So, and trust increases.
Okay. We're talking a lot about AI now. Just wondering what your perspective is, how AI will evolve in medical affairs, let's say in the next few years.
Jen, if you don't mind, I would like to take that question and integrate it with one of the questions that was in the chat about
Sure.
how can AI help to meet the emotional needs of our patients and clinicians. And I think there's a whole world out there that we're not exploiting enough in terms of the power of AI and to even kind of meet those needs and tie that into what we're doing in pharma. So for example, at Sanofi, we're looking into vaccines for acne. And if you're doing a clinical trial, your main outcome would be reduction in outbreaks, reduction in clearing up of the acne. That would definitely be your primary outcome. But what we're seeing with AI is that it's able to detect trends that we weren't able to pick up on in the past, where they're seeing that young people who feel more confident are posting more selfies on social media, and when they feel more confident about their skin. So this is almost like an indicator of let's say secondary outcome of how well the treatment is working, because of course you have the clinical outcome, but then you also see the social and emotional outcome if those patients are back on social media and posting. So this was something that was identified by AI as a potential secondary outcome, or at least an indicator to see how well our treatments are working and dipping into that emotional side.
Fantastic, thank you. Pascal or Youssef?
Yeah, I can go. So how do we see the future? I think it's quite promising. I mentioned already, based on those analytics and artificial intelligence, we can understand better the patient pathway of certain specific patient populations. We potentially can already predict specific patients coming on. So that's one major step, due to the fact that also imaging and image detection will also improve. Look now to GTP version 4. Also, diagnosis can be speed up. So if we combine those two, we see that we have already a huge acceleration in diagnosing correctly the patient. Together with AI and the synthesization of all the information, we hope that then also a correct diagnosed patient can be put on the correct treatment for him. And that will improve, I would say, patient outcomes. And that's the duty of all of us in medical affairs.
As this webinar is coming to a close, what is the one thing you would like your audience to take away from our session and discussion today? Maybe Youssef?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think we're witnessing something really amazing today. I think we had internet, we had light before internet, and what I wanna send as a message is this image I have from in the Fifth Avenue in Manhattan in the 1900s. It was all horses and carts. And 13 years after, in the 1913, something like that, was all cars and only one horse and cart. So my takeaway, it's a question. So what do you want to be? You want to be riding a car, or you want to be still riding a horse? The evolution or revolution of medical affairs and any industry actually is here. So it's up to us to pull through and define and design a roadmap of what are the little things that we can start with to show value for what this buzzword is promising to us. And I can guarantee you, because we started at Genentech already experimenting a lot, inclusive of generative AI and large language models, there is a lot of opportunity with really few things. You don't have to spend millions in training your models and in order to start seeing value. We talked about personalization. Jennifer, kindly and generously gave us really a masterclass on content. We appreciate it. So that's also an area that will evolve. Definitely, we're going to see more speed, more proactivity versus reactivity. And we're going to see probably a new skill set amongst, the medical affairs employees, because I'm sure there will be like some upskilling for them in order to, adapt to this new normal that we are witnessing today.
Thank you. Well, with time upon us, we sadly come to the end of this webinar, an exciting and insightful discussion by our experts. May I thank our panelists, Jennifer Villa-Garcia, Youssef Eidelkeet, Pascal van der Gucht, and Raymond Veet for their insights and opinions. Access to a recording of this webinar will be circulated by Reuters, and if you have additional questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. We hope the webinar has stimulated your thinking and planning around AI in medical affairs. History shows us how the champions of change seized opportunities and succeeded, while caretakers of constancy have fallen to the past. My advice: AI is here and needs to be seized to succeed. I wish you all success in this transformative time. Thank you all for your time and have a wonderful day.